Well, we'll call the council meeting to order. So we need to adopt the minutes from last meeting. Any concerns? Tracy?
I'll move acceptance of the minutes.
Tracy moves the adoption of the minutes. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Do we have any post-agenda items today? Kevin?
Madam Reeve, I've got a couple items in camera, one section 21, division 2 of FOIP, intergovernmental relations, and another one legal, please.
Okay. Any other items to add to the agenda? All right, could we get a motion off the agenda? Brian moves. So we are at question period, and or no, is there anyone in the council chambers, Kevin?
Nope.
And online, Todd?
Need to vote on that, Molly.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. The adoption of the agenda, all in favor? Thanks, Brian. Opposed, motion is carried. In the council chambers, is there anyone online at this point in time?
Yeah, we do have a few. We've got 4 viewing, and it looks like it's all working. We had a little bit of a glitch, but Pete is able to watch now. So welcome, Pete, and the other 3 people that are viewing. So
excellent. And I think we're supposed to allow some time at this point. Is that how this works? 2 minutes?
yeah, I think that's a great length of time. I think that's what Ariana says. We don't have to wait any more than 15 minutes, but 2 minutes is kind of the minimum. So if anybody has any questions out in the viewing world, that's when they would ask them, right?
Perfect. I think with this current setup that if someone had a question along the lines at any time, we could probably work it in, but we have some delegations today, so maybe we'll just talk a little bit about that. At 11 o'clock, we have the Chamber of Commerce, and at 11:30 we have Enterprise Fleet Management, and I think I saw that at 10:45 is our first one, Utilities. Cole is coming. I think that's the 3 of them. Is that correct, Anne-Marie? Or Anne-Marie, Ariana?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. All right, well, I think we can move on with our meeting then. And so we'll go to, well, that's perfect. We'll go to Ag Services update if there is anything, Todd.
Sorry about that, just had to shut my door. All right, well, what an exciting day. I'll just turn my camera on here so you can all see me. Can you see me now? Yep. All right, I wrote a few things down, thought you might be interested in. The mowing, we finished roadside mowing on the south half of the county in the rain yesterday, and all 3 mowers are back in the shop doing a little service. We're going to hold them off for, obviously all of today. Not going to go out mowing on the north side. And then we're going to do a few odd jobs with them before they head out to do the north side, just so that Kim and Howard can finish spraying up. So talking about spraying, we should be complete early next week. We're done kind of the Duchess, Millicent, Patricia area. One Tree area is all done. So they're just finishing up on the west side of the 36. And with the 2 trucks, they figured they needed, about a day and a half, 2 days of good weather. So this year that's been hard to find, but we had actually a really good year. And I think, to be honest with you, the rain kind of sucks for getting everything done in a perfect timely manner, but it kept everything green enough, long enough that we think we should still be able to do a good job. The hamlets and the subdivisions and all of our contracts and stuff, obviously with this wonderful rain, this is kind of the time of year where it starts to slow down growing. We haven't realized that slowing down of growing yet, so we're a little bit behind, but we got a great crew. We're working 2 different crews, 2 different areas every day, and I think they've been doing a fantastic job trying to keep up. Some of our contract spraying, we are on our 2nd pass, I guess, just doing a little bit of touch-ups, kind of at the request of the people that are paying us, so that's good. We are starting our Riverwalk program on Monday. The river is still quite high. The Bow River is still quite high, so we don't exactly know how it's going to go, but we think we're behind on some of the weeds that are there. Some of the Sentence chamomile got a little bit of a head start on us, and it's starting to flower, so we want to get out there and get some of that good work done. And typically when we have high water, we don't end up seeing a germination till later in the year on those areas. So we might have to do a quick 2nd pass, maybe later, sometime into August, seeing what comes once the water goes down. We were working with the Kinsman Club to do TD tree days that we've been doing the last few years. They were going to do it out at the rodeo grounds just north of our yard here. But the TD program is canceled for this season. They just let us know yesterday. So we'll look at running something like that with them in another year. Speaking of kind of cancellations, the Rural Beautification Tour itself, I think we're going to plug that in as a virtual type tour. So I know QB is still excited to go and judge yards with us. But I think what we're going to do is take some really great video and some pictures when we're out there, and try to post some sort of virtual tour. We weren't quite confident that it was the greatest year to put everybody on buses and have everybody together, just due to the way the world is right now. And I guess kind of the virtual thing is the way of the future, maybe, at least for this year. We're working with a group at Lethbridge County, some of the provincial guys still. We're going to do a virtual nutrient management seminar. Very early talks, had our first meeting kind of this week, looking at doing 2-hour sessions, kind of maybe 1 a week, and starting that in November and December. So some great topics. I know blowing soil was a very big concern, and how to mitigate that using proper nutrient management, manure storage, all those kinds of things. So I think there'll be lots of great information. We'll keep you updated on that, but we'll go from there. As well as next week, we are going to host, along with Rural Roots Canada, a virtual Ag Day. So if you guys remember in the past, Rural Roots has hosted an Ag Day out of Rolling Hills where they've done some farm tours, brought in some great speakers, and had lots of participants. So they wanted to continue to do some education for farmers, and they went the virtual route. So we're going to host them in 154, 156, which is down by Kevin's office. And I think it's going to be a great day. That's July 14th, next Tuesday. So they're just going to run all their tech stuff out of the county here and then broadcast it to the world. So if you know people that might be interested in that, check out the Rural Roots website. And all you have to do is sign up using the Eventbrite website. and it's free. So that's kind of fun. And then I did mention the blowing soil stuff. We've been working with a few landowners to try to mitigate that. A couple down in, I guess that would be Division 4 in Wayne's area. So we've had some good cooperation, really good cooperation, in fact. Made a few phone calls, had a few in-person meetings, and it looks like we're mitigating everything there and hopefully making some plans to stop that from happening in the future. And I think that's about where we're at.
Wayne, Tracy? Questions?
Two things, Todd. Are you planning on going a little earlier with the second mow because grass is, I mean, it's growing crazy. And on that gardening tour, you know, that by posting pictures and stuff like that, that might be a thing we could do yearly because it'd be a good thing to advertise these good nice things in the county. So, but just something to think about, maybe.
Yeah, on the beautification stuff, we typically do post some of the pictures, but maybe not like a video or a tour necessarily like that. So it'll be an interesting one. I'm not super techie kind of guy, but we're really trying to get better at that. So that's a good suggestion. We'll have something on the website and the YouTube stuff for everybody to see. And on the mowing, we typically start mowing kind of around the time when the grass starts heading out. The idea is that once it's headed out, it's exhausted a lot of its root reserves, especially when the rain stops. But this year the rain hasn't stopped, so yeah, we'll be trying to push for the full 2 cuts this year for sure. So it takes us about a month to get over half the county. So we did the first half in the south. We'll do the second half in the second half in the north, and then we just kind of start rolling again. So hopefully by October 1st, we got it all wrapped up.
Tracy?
I'm curious on how is the attendance at Emerson? Is the campground been fairly full?
That's a good question. I think it's pretty hit and miss. Kevin might know a little better than I do because he's spent a little bit more time down there. But we've certainly had lots of questions in the office, people calling, seeing when they can get down there and all the rest of it. But we don't know what actually happens, or at least I don't. Chris does. But I haven't been paying enough attention, I guess, Tracy.
Yeah, it's been busy on the weekends for sure. During the weekdays, though, there's a lot of vacancies, but the weekends it's been pretty much filled up.
That's good to hear. Lionel?
Hi, Todd. I was just talking to a neighbor the other day, and we were discussing the roadside spraying program, and it seems to be working very well in our area, at least. I know he's a very fussy character, but he was quite happy with the condition of the roadside spraying program. So.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, Lionel. Sometimes we question whether we should continue, to do it every second year or push it off a year. And, we usually make those kind of we question ourselves in May, and then we start looking in June and July, and we're like, oh man, I'm really happy that we continued and did it, because that's when things really start to pop and pop above the grass and on the fence lines. So I think I'm happy to hear that it's working.
Yeah, we specifically talked about that skipping a year, and he was quite satisfied with it also.
Good.
Thanks, Lionel. Brian?
Just wondering, you mentioned you're rolling with some contract work. Specifically are you doing work for the rail line and for transportation on their numbered highways?
Yeah, great question. So CPR, we sprayed the whole thing for, well, not the whole thing, but we patch sprayed our entire county on CPR land for them this year. So that was really good. And I think we're going to go back in the fall. So we made it kind of where we got CPR to agree to give us kind of an allotment of money that we can use in the best interest of that property in terms of noxious and prohibited noxious weeds. So that was exciting and really good to get from them. And then as far as Volker is concerned, we spray with them. So when we spray the north half of the county or in the south half, we try to include their secondaries. So we did do all of the secondaries right off the hop so that they could start their mowing program. So the secondaries are all done, the 3-digit highways. And then this year we actually sprayed the number 1 highway, I believe it was 15 feet from the roadside into the ditch in the median and the outside on the east half of the county. And then we did the 36 highway from the number 1 right to the Red Deer River. So the same thing at that 15 feet, the top pass. That's where we typically see the weeds that we're concerned about is mostly there.
Do you, how do you bill that out? Do you, is it cost recovery plus or just our cost?
Yeah, so it's for the Volker stuff we have, the Alberta Transportation and Volker stuff, that's set rates. So we charge those out at so much a hectare and so much an hour, depending on if we're using the big trucks or the handgun trucks. And it's more than cost recovery on those projects. And then our chemical is at cost plus 5% for all our administration and storage and all that kind of jazz.
Excellent, Todd. Thank you for that information.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Great to be working with the other government agencies as well as CPR. That's credit to you, Todd, and your development of relationships, I would say. Other questions? Kevin.
Thanks, Madam Reeve. So we had a phone call on the weekend where a gentleman left a message, didn't leave his name or number so that we weren't able to return a call, but basically he wanted to see the county quit the coyote bounty program and implement a $2 per gopher tail program. So I thought I would pass that message off.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great voice message. It wasn't filled with all of the perfect information. There was maybe some stuff that wasn't quite right, but it's always good to hear when people are concerned, and if they have opinions, that never hurts to hear that stuff.
Are there other comments, questions? Well, the coyotes
like
and the gophers. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, Molly.
No.
In regards to that question, are they aware of our liquid strychnine program?
Well, that's a good question, Brian. The fellow that left a voice message, somebody may have told him the wrong information. He thought we were paying $75 per coyote. And he thought we just started that program and we've been running it just for 2 years. And I'll give it to the people that are concerned about the gopher populations. They may be right, the coyotes eat the gophers, but we haven't noted a large drop in coyote populations. We've kind of been keeping them about the same. But yeah, being that we don't know who the fellow was, Brian, it's hard to say how much he knows about other programming, I guess.
Okay, thanks.
All right, anything else for Todd? Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the Planning and Development Report, item 9.1. Wait, I should check the time. Is Cole around? Or is that 10:40? That's 10:45. What the heck time is it? Okay, we got lots of time. All right, planning and development report. Maria.
Good morning. So this month's report really was just showing the stats. Development permits in June are kind of on the low end of the 5-year average. Construction permits are around average. So, you know, it's kind of been status quo. Subdivisions, we've had lots of people call in and ask questions. We have a few applications, so we're working with people on that, which is great. We have, well, ISL is on board. We've been using them for a little bit of mentoring, and we are going to kick off our SWOT analysis. We have our first meeting planned for next week, so I'm looking forward to see what comes out of that and the discussions that we have. So that was planning and development in June.
Other questions? Thanks, Maria. We need a motion to accept that report. Ellen moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And we have a request for a subdivision extension. Item 2.
Yeah, thank you. So ORS received a subdivision extension application. This is for a subdivision that was approved on June 20th, 2019. The purpose of the application was to create a new county residential parcel from a previously unsubdivided quarter in Division 10. The reason that they are requesting a little bit more time is because with COVID, they are just having troubles. They had troubles getting the correct consents and meeting all of the conditions. So they just need a little bit more time to figure that all out. The subdivision is still acceptable as the proposal still meets the criteria of the land use bylaw. And I think granting an extension would be fine.
Questions regarding this? Motion, please. Kelly moves. All in favor? Motion is carried. Anything else, Maria, today?
I think that's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Also. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, we'll move on to the public participation plan.
Good morning, Council. This item is a continuation of the discussion that took place on June 25th. Council had provided direction during that meeting to prepare a draft plan that could be considered if there is interest in moving ahead with the public participation process for providing some parameters around the distribution of funding for recreation facility improvements. Really, the proposal that's before Council is based on principles that have been prepared and outlined by the International Association for Public Participation. It's a well-known organization when it comes to community engagement practices and best standards. One of the questions that they deal with in some of their information, the overarching question is, why do public participation? And there's 3 reasons that are listed in their documentation. Number 1, effective public participation acknowledges the desire for humans to participate in decisions that affect them. Number 2, Effective public participation facilitates understanding. And number 3, effective public participation improves decisions. So that is really the foundation for why it is being suggested that we should engage in a public participation process that would provide some parameters for how recreational funding would be distributed to community groups in the future. The proposal that's before council, it includes a plan that has been prepared. There's a number of elements to it. The main thing that we're hoping to, that would be the outcome from this, is the establishment of criteria for providing funding to facilities or to groups that operate facilities. A good plan, it answers questions of who would be involved, what the objective is, when it would take place, where, why, and how. And what I have tried to do in the draft plan that is before council is answer those particular questions. If council is wanting to move ahead with a community engagement process, I think there's going to be a need for council to provide some additional direction on 8 points that I have raised in my report. And that would, those particular points would relate specifically to the scope for the initiative, who all would be involved or should be involved, and whether or not we should also be looking at trying to draw in the participation of the urban communities where recreation facilities are also located. So that's just kind of an overview. I'm certainly prepared to have discussion with council on this. I would anticipate that there is going to be some questions and look forward to providing additional information for you.
Thanks, Lane. Questions or thoughts on what Lane has presented? Wayne, what's up?
Just a question. Since we are in the process of an ICF with the city, and part will be for recreation, will they be participating in this process, or is this just for county residents and maybe some of the hamlets and villages and towns in our region?
Excellent question, and that's one of the points that I had raised in my report regarding scope. Ideally, it would be nice to have all facilities that may be on the receiving end represented through this process, but it's a question of whether or not there's going to be an appropriate way for the urban communities to get involved without diluting the influence or the impact that the truly rural community groups would have through the process. I think that's a discussion that needs to take place within council. How would it be possible to engage the likes of Brooks, Rosemary, and Rosemary and Dutchess that we're still dealing with in this process, and still provide an opportunity for a clear voice to be projected by the community groups that we definitely want to hear from during this process.
Anne-Marie and Clarence? I think we should leave the urbans out for now. How to deal with our own facilities and our own people, that's the main object of this exercise. So I think try to keep the group as small as possible, focus on our own facilities, and probably make adjustments along the way, not necessarily with the urbans. I would like to see them out completely, but with the number of people. You could start with a smaller group, and then as you go through this process, if you feel you need to add more county volunteers, I don't think they need to be communicate, then you could probably adjust the way you deal with the people. And no counselors. I don't think you should have counselors on there. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Anne Marie. So you're saying that to begin with, you feel that the focus should simply be hamlets, then basically not any residents that receives from municipality. Strictly County of Newell services. Okay, Clarence?
It's part of a lot bigger discussion. I think as the county, we really don't have a real good, at least I don't feel we have a very good philosophy on recreation, period. And I put it into three categories. I think it's fairly easy to put it into three categories. We have the city as one. And then we have the dealings with our three smaller municipalities. And then we have 5 standalone divisions, areas that are totally county. Being in one of those areas, I have a real fear that, and probably as well in the smaller municipality ones, that we get involved in recreation, the more it becomes a county policy rather than a public community-driven one. And I had the fear when we went to a regular mill rate, and I know some of the reasons we did it, and I still kind of wonder if it was the right thing to do, especially municipalities who do have public participation whenever they build something, because people come together and do it. And I think that's lacking a little bit when we get into the larger municipalities. You know, and I just want to give an example. We had someone come in from Div 8 and ask for some funding. And maybe the particular discussion hadn't taken place at the base level in that Div 8 Duchess area in the right way. But what happens when we control the dollars and we make the decision who gets those dollars will come to you. And I'm not sure that's where the decision should really have been made. It should be made between Div 8 and Duchess. And those of us who are involved in this ICF, I feel we're working in a bit of a vacuum. We don't really know how we structure these things, how we want to do it with the city, to do it with our municipalities. We've got something worked out with Bizano, but it kind of fell in place. And it probably is kind of the way you want to go. But to our smaller communities, like in my time, I can't really remember, I've just forgotten, but any one of them really coming to us for dollars. And certainly, and I know in our community, when something gets built, there's a huge amount of discussion. There's bickering back and forth, and there's great discussion. And that's where it should be. And then you go out and you try to raise the dollars. All things are changing, or all our communities are changing, and maybe that doesn't work anymore. But ownership is sure there when that happens. And if we want public participation, we've always had it in the small community, in the small area. When something like the Rolling Hills Arena gets built, Boy, there's a lot of talking in that community. And so I really fear as we get to a more urbanized empathy on recreation, we're going to lose that. And I don't want to see it lost. And I know this, hopefully this public consultation will point that out for us, but I really fear right now with what and how do you do that? We already have trouble sometimes getting people to meetings when there's nothing going on. Now we're going to do it virtually, which is pretty foreign to most of us out in the countryside. So I really worry about getting good participation. But anyway, I just wanted to bring out that ownership that's out there for rec facilities and being part of it. It's there. It's there in our smaller communities. And let's, whatever we do to help that along, let's not get the perception out there that all of a sudden this is county driven, because then we're losing something very, very valuable, something that we're searching for and that is already there. And maybe we don't want to change it a whole lot. Thanks.
All right. We have some other hands and Tracy. And is Cole present yet? Or Kevin, or who? No? Okay. Lionel, Tracy?
I had a lot of the same thoughts that Clarence had, and well-spoken, Clarence. I see some of these smaller groups. They have a lot of pride in what they do. They don't require guidance. They have occasionally come to us for money, but in most cases, and they have a lot of pride in what they're doing. And I think if you get, if we get too take that away from them. You're right, Clarence. I agree 100% with your comments on that. I see one in particular, the gun club. To operate themselves. They come to us once for some donations, and that don't even know they exist. That's perfect. But yeah, I'm with Clarence on his comments there. That's great. Let's not take away their pride and what they want to accomplish themselves.
Tracy?
Oh, I just want to clarify how I'm looking at the topic that we're discussing about at the moment is that we are trying to establish a policy or a guideline in how we will give out funding for our county recreation facilities. So in my mind, like we have facilities in the county that are run by our community organizations. They're going to at some point, like I'm going to use Tilly for an example. They have their ice plant, maybe that needs rebuilt. So as a community, they're going to get together, they're going to decide that this needs to be done. Then they would come to the county to ask for funding assistance. So in my mind, we're not taking ownership of what the communities are doing with their facilities. We're trying to establish a guideline in order to be able to assist with funding, but we have a process. So I don't know, I feel like I'm on a totally different page than what Lionel and Clarence are looking at it. So I'm just a little mixed up.
Good comments, Tracy. Wayne?
I'm with Tracy also. I think this process is just how to get rid of the money, how to give it out. I don't want to have have the county sitting in on any board meetings of any community group there that's running a facility. They run their facility, they come to us, they put a plan together for what they want to do, come to us, and we put together a process where they can access money in this fund we're putting aside. That's the only thing I want to see done here. I don't want to have anything to do with the groups.
Kevin?
So, Madam Reeve, I think one of the things that's going to be important in this whole process as we go through these agreements is having a long-term capital plan in place for everything that is going to be using public funds for. So I think, you know, the exercise of, or a policy of how that can happen, I think is going to need to be put in place. But the whole goal of this is to get the planning ahead into a long-term plan so that we know what's coming. We know whether we're collecting enough or too much. So I think that part of the exercise needs to take place, even with the hamlet facilities.
Brian?
Thank you, Madam Reeve. I think we're missing one point, and that's, and I call it the gray area, and that's, I'm square in the middle of that, where we have an ag society that 3 of their facilities are in the village of Dutchess, but they're run by volunteer organizations. So they fit more like our hamlet rec facilities, but they're not. How do you deal with them? To me, we have to, this is part of the plan that we have to identify what we can afford to fund. And if we're not going to do that, then we might as well cut every bit of rec funding down to 0, give it back to the people that are actually paying the taxes, and let them fund it the other way, which I don't favor. But I think if we're going to throw up our hands and say, well, we don't want to make the decision, then we can't collect the money for that decision either.
Other comments? Tracy?
So may I ask, with our municipalities, is that not what our ICF agreements would establish in our recreation agreement on capital and operating? And then this is a separate issue, or does it tie into one? Or I guess that's where I need some help.
Kelly?
Madam Reeve, in answer to Tracy's question, I would hope that the ICFs with those urbans would answer those questions. I do see this public participation plan as an opportunity to get to know what we have out in the county, what needs funding, future funding, that sort of thing. I think we have an obligation to our ratepayers to know that, and also for funding, now we have an obligation to make sure that that money is going towards what is being applied for. I think this is a great start. I also think that one piece would be that isn't listed in the questions is cost for use. I would like to see a cost analysis of all the organizations for user fees. I didn't see that in the questions. I do appreciate what Clarence is putting out there, and I think it can be handled within the scope of this questionnaire, within the scope of this app. Thanks, Madam Reeve.
Anyone else want to offer any opinions or information? So I sort of agree with everyone, and I totally feel that this is the beginning of quite a hefty process, but it will help us figure out what our end goal of this long-term capital plan should be. So I don't have a lot of problems with what Lane has put forward to us. I think that, I mean, we have been blessed as a county to be able to support all of these and all of their infrastructure. And they have been coming to us for money forever, because that's why we have such well-maintained infrastructure and in our recreational communities, our little hamlets. So I just think we need a lot more information, and this is the beginning of how to get that information. So, Kelly, you had a concrete suggestion that costs for uses, and I think that information probably is available. I think years ago, I know the county did some information or did some research on that, perhaps. Other suggestions to Lane, changes, or I think we should be looking first at our hamlet areas, and then if we want to, we can expand. We've done a fair amount of work with Bazzano and with the city, so that leaves Rosemary and Dutchess, but I think we should carry on ICFs separately and start by having a look at our own facilities to start off with. Brian?
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of reinforce that, and that I agree too, that we should have the ones that are funded as a paid managed facilities separately. That shouldn't be part of our initial discussion. But I reiterate again that the Dutchess Ag Society operates with volunteers. They should be part of this discussion. Even though they have the facilities, most of their facilities are in the village. How do you deal with them? They're a key component to this. And if I'm wrong, that's fine. But I think they fit more like a hamlet-run organization than they do a city-run organization.
Anne-Marie, Wayne?
Yeah, with the Ag Society in Dutchess, it's a special situation, but that will also be addressed when they have their ICF on recreation. So maybe we should just kind of park that with Dutchess for now, but be open to it coming back later on in our own discussions.
And I think that we don't have to do one or the other. We can do both, but they don't have to come together immediately. Apparently Cole is now in the meeting, so we'll leave this conversation and go to Cole and his NRSC report. And I know Margaret is also with us. So Cole's report is at item 10.1. Cole, where are you?
I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yes, Cole.
Okay. Thank you, Reeve Douglas and councillors. I will present my report. It's the first time I've seen some of you for a while, presented semi in person. So we'll start off with the distribution systems and the County of Rural Water Project. There's nothing out of the ordinary to report in those two areas. Everything's running as it should, no major issues, so that's good. There has been a little bit of issues with the wastewater collection systems in some of the hamlets, and as it pertains to the rainfall event we had last weekend. We've had some issues where people are complaining that their systems, especially in rolling hills, aren't keeping up properly. And we've known this for years. It's a problem with how there's they're dealing with their personal stormwater on their personal properties. A lot of, in years past, we're talking about 20 years ago, it was commonplace to tie weeping tile and sump pumps into your sanitary sewer system because it was out of sight, out of mind. It pumped it away. You didn't have to worry about it. But we're finding in big rain events where you're getting a lot of precipitation over a longer period of time, the sanitary systems weren't designed to handle those kind of volumes. And that's why we're having problems. The lift station in Rolling Hills has been working flawlessly as designed. It's just everybody's sewer systems that they have on their personal property. That's the problem they're having. Their pumps can't keep up and everybody's trying to pump into the system at the same time, high volumes. So it's nothing to do with the hamlet's infrastructure. It's the way people have hooked into it. So I've seen some correspondence that Mark has put out and Jeff as well. So it's going to be made so that people are aware in these hamlets that it's best for them to have their sump pumps discharged into their yard and not hooked up into their sewer system. So that's all we can hope for is the way that works. Like I said, the lift station itself is working fine, so there's no problems with that. We're also seeing that in Scandia. Scandia is a little bit different in the fact that there might be some infiltration into the system where we have to look at to maybe trying to repair. But there's also the same problem with everybody tying into their weeping tile into the sanitary system. So it's twofold. So we see that sometimes when we have a large amount of snow and then we get a quick melt in the springtime in Scandia. The lift station can't keep up. And then we saw it there when we had the heavy rainfall 10 days ago or so. So we're definitely looking to that, but there again, the root problem there is that people don't have it hooked up properly and it wasn't designed to handle stormwater. It's a sanitary system. The two systems should be separate, but that's just the way it is. Then the third one in Patricia, we had the company out of Calgary, Thorough, come in and do a cleaning of the entire system and a camera inspection. From what I was told, what they found was they identified the same problems that were identified in 2011, last time the county had that looked after. So no new problems per se. It's the issues that we've known about for several years. So it's all cleaned out and it's as good as it's going to get. So now it goes back on to the county and the residents of Patricia what they want to do to alleviate some of the issues that were there that have been for 9 or so years. And that's the majority of my report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Ellen?
Wrong button. Hi, Cole. I'm just wondering if residents of Patricia are being educated on what not to flush down the toilet. I know there was issues of diapers, wipes being flushed down the toilet. Is there some education process in the works, i.e. perhaps in their utility bills? And I got one other question. How difficult and expensive would it be for residents that have the sump pump tied in stormwater to change it to a pump out on the lawn? Is that expensive, difficult process? I'll let you answer that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the questions. We can start off with the last one that you asked. It all depends on how they've got their system built. Sometimes it might be as easy as just capping off the discharge that it's going into the sanitary and then just running a line out into their yard. So that might be simple, but sometimes if it requires a lot of excavation and replumbing, and it can get expensive. So each case will be different. So, but for the most part, it should be fairly simple to just reroute it. And cap it off from going into the sanitary system and running a line out to the back of their property, so that it will most of it will get just go back into the ground. You know, it has to be far enough away from their house so that they're not just kind of pumping it into a circle, causing it to come back into their sump pump. And then that's the way the storm system is designed. If it has proper drainage and it all gets collected, then it'll get pumped out to where it's supposed to. And then it won't overload your sanitary system, which, you know, it's a whole different ball of wax there. You're actually treating that, and it wasn't designed to do stormwater. So.
Other questions for Cole? Wayne?
Oh, sorry, Molly. I just had the other question about educating the Patricia residents about what to flush.
I'm sorry about that. So we have been in contact with Mark and Jeff, and we do this quite regularly, so that this isn't the first time that things like this have happened, and especially with COVID and a lot of disinfecting wipes and stuff like that being used during this time. We've seen that throughout the hamlets, and not just in Patricia. So that's been communicated back to Mark and Jeff at the county, and they've gone out and done some customer education as well through mailers and I believe websites, stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure how you guys handled it, but it's Mark and I especially have kind of gone over what should be included in those emails and pamphlets and stuff like that. So I've read what has drawn up, and it looks really good, and we've been dealing that for several months now. So I just don't know how you guys have been delivering it in that time, but I definitely know that you guys are aware and have been doing something.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got a question for, I don't know if Cole can answer this, or it might be Kevin. As far as Patricia, who has the final say in what gets done there? Like if we go in there to repair the sewer system, I know back in, 2011, Patricia rejected the plan that was put together. They said it was too expensive. But it's going to get to the point something has to be done. Do we have the final say on if they say, no, we're not going to do this, you're just going to go with the way things are until a catastrophic failure? Or if we decide we want to fix that before that happens, do we have the power just to go in there and do it?
I'll take that question if council doesn't mind. Everybody hear me?
Yep. All
okay,
good.
Section 408 of the Municipal Government Act pertains to local improvements specific to sewers. A municipality may construct a local improvement for sewer if the council approves the construction. The construction is recommended by the Minister of Health or the Medical Health Officer, and the council considers it to be in the public interest to do so. The owners of parcels of land that benefit from a local improvement for sewer have no right to petition against its construction. That is the only time in the MGA that I'm aware of that the benefiting owners of parcels do not have the right to petition a local improvement. I'm not sure that I would encourage council to go down that road, because we did have costs for owners transitioning from a communal system to having potentially private sewage disposal systems. It would be a septic tank that they would be required to pump out on their own accord when they got full, if they chose to not replace the sewer system in the hamlet because of its expense. It's kind of twofold in this regard, because it's not just a matter of the sanitary sewer collection mains in the hamlet, but we were also contending with the situation that it is only a single cell treatment lagoon in Patricia, and securing land for development of a second cell we had no success with, and we were creeping upwards of over $3 million to try to get that current cell and second cell situated to a point where we could even look at effluent broadcasting across land. A lot of the land in the Patricia area is high in alkaline and salts, which was making that challenging and pushing us further and further from the community. So part of that $3 million was we were looking at about a $750,000 lift station, which currently the system is a gravity fed system. It's as Cole can probably nod his head to, it's the most efficient system, most cost effective system when it's all gravity, because we don't have to replace a $750,000 lift station 20 or 30 years down the road, because that's going to be an ongoing cost if it's ever installed. That was some of the challenges in Patricia anyway. The costs estimated to move them to a private septic disposal system was somewhere around, I think, $10,000 for the tank install. I don't know what that would be today, because of course, Wayne, as you've identified, that was earlier 2012 or 2013ish, whatever we were dealing with there. But that's really where that's at. The challenging part with Patricia is it's clay tile pipe, and to go in and do a repair to find a suitable connection where the pipe doesn't continue to fail further and further and further, where all of a sudden you're doing just about the entire system when you started out as a small repair, that can be a challenging thing using that clay tile pipe. So education side of things that Cole wasn't capable of answering. Social media, City of Brooks had advertisement out in the local newspaper and stuff of what was flushable, what was not. I didn't think that we needed to be redundant in our advertisement of those same things, because everybody's getting the Brooks Bulletin. Everybody should understand that if you have a septic system, whether it's your own septic tank with septic field, or whether you're in a hamlet urbanized development, you don't want to put non-flushables down there because it plugs everything up. And it's the taxpayers' money that's got to pay for that, whether it's the cleaning, whether it's the backups or whatever. Generally it all comes back to the taxpayer to bear one way or another. So they're the only ones that pay for it. So if there's any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, we can always talk further about this with our own council. And anything else for Cole today, because we have another delegation waiting. No? Cole, final comments?
I think I've touched on everything. If there's no other questions, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you, Cole.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah, you also. All right, we will move back in our agenda to item 7.1, Brooks and District Chamber of Commerce. And Margaret Plumtree is here to speak to us. And I don't know if Margaret knows everybody around our table, so we'll try and do intros sort of around what my screen looks like, and then Margaret can give us a little bit of background on herself. So I'm going to start up top left on my screen. So that is Brian. Maybe you could introduce yourself and where you're from.
Good morning, Margaret. I think we remember each other from our PEP days, but my name is Brian DeJong. I represent the area around the Village of Dutchess, which is Div 8.
Anne-Marie. Hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Tracy.
Good morning, Tracy Fife, Division 5, which is south and west around the City of Brooks.
Hubie.
Morning, Margaret. Division 2, Tilly. Thanks for all the meetings we've had in Vauxhall too over the years.
Kelly.
Hi, Margaret. I'm Kelly Chrisman. I'm from the west side of the county around the town of Bassano. And you know, you're off my screen. I don't see your picture any longer. I used to, but I don't right now.
Margaret, are you still with us? Are you hearing us?
Yeah.
Good. Good.
It says my camera's on, so
okay.
I can try turning it off and on again.
You're on.
Yeah, okay.
Lionel?
Good morning, Margaret. Lionel Just, from Division 10, which is north and east of Brooks.
Wayne?
Morning, Margaret. We've met on the Veterans Memorial Highway. I'm Division 4 and Scandia Rainier in Bow City.
Clarence?
Good morning, Clarence Amulon. I live in Rolling Hills, Division 1.
Ellen?
Good morning, Margaret. I'm Ellen Unra, and I represent the countryside around the village of Rosemary.
Thank you.
I think that's everybody on our council. Our staff, Kevin.
Morning, Margaret. Welcome.
All right, Margaret and I are familiar for many different reasons over the years, lots of different meetings. Anyhow, Margaret, welcome, and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Reeve, Council, and staff for inviting me to this meeting. Just nice, quick, simple, just wanted to do an introduction. I started March 2nd, and shortly thereafter, COVID-19 hit, and I haven't been able to get out and meet anyone. So this is a great opportunity to introduce myself to those of you who haven't met me yet. So brand new to the chamber. Let's see here. What do we have going on? So normally the trade show happens in the spring. Due to COVID-19, we were not able to have that. We know how important the trade show is to the region, so we have postponed it a couple times, and our current date is set for September 18th to 20th at the JBS Center. It will be a smaller trade show as long as regulations continue the way they are, and we're putting in place plenty of safety protocols to keep everyone safe. Next thing you need to know is we are going to combine our AGM this year with our Business of the Year awards. Again, just because events are a little bit trickier to have. So this will, again, be a smaller event, which is unfortunate because usually we have about 300 people in attendance. And this year, we're hoping the regulations change to allow us to have 100 people. But we really believe in recognizing our businesses. So we're really hoping to go forward and have this at the Heritage Inn and Conference Center on October 23rd. And then the other thing that we're working on, other than keeping our members up to date on all the government programs for COVID-19, is we're working on our website right now. So we are looking at different options. The chamber, things have changed over the years, and we really need to be more fiscally responsible. So we're looking at our website, different options to see if we can bring those costs down while still providing the microsites to our businesses. So we're looking at that as our contract is due this year. And then we're also looking on for our members doing some add-ons to memberships. So we don't want to increase the cost of memberships. COVID-19 has hit the chamber very hard this year. The trade show does provide us a lot of our revenue for our operations. So, but we know our members have been hit just as hard, if not more so. So instead of changing anything with our memberships, we're going to keep costs all the same. And we're going to look at doing add-ons. So something like starting first with an advertising package, because we have different avenues of advertising with our website and various other media platforms. So we're going to look at putting packages together to make advertising a little cheaper while working with our partners. And then the other thing we're doing that's a little bit different is the board has approved going forward and recognizing all businesses within our region on our website. So whether you're a chamber member or not, you will have your name listed on our website. Of course, it won't be the full package deal that our members do get, but we believe that going forward, it's important for the chamber to be that one-stop to look. We've got a fantastic directory. Let's put everyone on there so they can be found. And then, of course, if you're a member, we'll be able to link to your website as well. I think that's everything I was wanting to discuss. Is there any questions?
Thanks, Margaret. I think it's great that you are presenting to us, because over the years, I'm not sure if we've ever had a chamber presentation before. And yeah.
He was the one who came up with the idea, and I thought it was fantastic. So he was the initial invite. So definitely thank him for putting us together.
Excellent. Questions? Margaret, I didn't hear, and I'm interested, the trade show date is hopefully when?
September 18th to 20th. And it will be at the JBS Center. And then, of course, it will be smaller just because we don't think the regulations are going to open up much more than what they are. It's really hard to decide, but in order to make sure we're keeping everyone safe, we thought this is the better way to go. Make it smaller for this year, and we'll see what happens for next year, especially if a vaccine comes out around December, like we've been hearing murmurings, then an April trade show would be able to be much bigger again.
Any other questions for Margaret? Anne-Marie.
Margaret, I'm assuming, but you might have to confirm this, that you have kind of a working relationship with the Economic Development Group?
Yes, so we're on the stakeholders group for the region, and we're also on the Economic Task Force as well. And I've just recently asked and been approved to be on the BRZ as well. So I won't have voting rights there, but I think, you know, it's instead of repeating and being more responsible with resources, I think the BRZ and the Chamber could really get together to make some things happen, right? Some events and just anything for the downtown businesses to make that better and prosperous.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, those working together things are really important. Kelly.
Margaret, I'm just wondering, I believe Bassano has joined the Brooks Chamber, the Bassano area district. What kind of involvement are you seeing from the side here?
So we do have a little hiccup with Bassano. So Bassano has, Chamber has, I'm trying to think of what the proper word is.
Dissolved.
Dissolved, thank you. And then the Brooks and District Chamber is supposed to be taking on Bassano. The problem is when I came on contacting the government to see where we're at with all that, they never received any of the paperwork for having Bassano join us. So we're back at square one, having to get all that together and include Bassano. So I haven't heard anything from the businesses yet in Bassano, but now that we're in phase 2 and fingers crossed that seems to be going quite well, I am going out into the community and encouraging all our members to become a part of our Love Local program. It's a new program where members of the Chamber can offer a deal to other participating members, and they get a special key card for them and their staff so they can shop around to other participating members. So I'm hoping to get out to Bassano and get them interested in that and see how we can work around the fact that we can't take their membership at the moment. But we are working on getting that back on track because it just makes sense. They're part of the region, so let's have them part of the Chamber as well. But yeah, just so you know, there is that little hiccup. But we'll still support them because it's not their fault.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Kelly.
Other questions? Hubie?
Margaret, the trade show. You're going to have a lot of work cut out for you this summer to get some people in the booth. So you might.
Yes, we do have a lot of people who followed us from the spring one and stayed with us, just because for a lot of businesses, they really require the trade show to get their product out to customers. So we do have a lot of them already ready. Whether we'll fill 100%, that's questionable for sure.
So Margaret, what's the number that you can, like at the present time indoors, what's the number, or what are you hoping for September?
So right now the number is only at 50. So we're really watching for the August announcement to see what the numbers are going to look like. We're really hoping it's going to open up. They've opened up the outdoors quite a bit, so we're hoping for a good announcement. If we don't get it, unfortunately, then we're either going to have to postpone again, or to do it a little bit later in the year, or to wait until April of next year.
Right.
But we really just have to wait to see what the announcement is. It's looking good, but you know, we're being optimistic as well as cautious.
Yeah, because 50 definitely is too small. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and one of the things that we're hoping that'll really help is that we contract out for getting all the skirting and curtains around the booth. So we feel that that's also going to be something that helps us, because it helps with that social distancing part, that everything's curtained off.
Right. Other questions? No? Anything else, Margaret?
I think I covered it all. Yeah. So if there's any questions anyone has afterwards that you realized, you can simply email me at office@brookschamber.ab.ca, and I can answer those questions for you.
On another, with another hat that you wear, how are things in Vauxhall?
Vauxhall's doing well. We unfortunately had to postpone our centennial celebrations to next year. Yes. Yeah, the community was quite disappointed. However, we do have 2 projects on the go. So the Centennial Committee has gone forward with building a clock tower to commemorate the event. And they've almost collected all the funds that they are looking for. And then on council side, myself and a couple of the staff, we have an interesting lead up all the way until next year. If you saw it in the newspaper, there was an announcement that went out, and Sammy and Samantha, who are our mascots that sit on Highway 36, they're getting married at the end of the month on a Friday. It's COVID-19. We need some feel-good stories, and you know what? They keep on opening outdoor events. So yeah, Sammy and Samantha are 25 years old this year. They've been inseparable right from the very beginning, and they finally decided to tie the knot. You're welcome.
That's great.
That's exactly why I'm moving forward with this, is because COVID-19 has not brought us much humor at all. Whereas when you think of 2 potato mascots getting married, you can't help but laugh, right?
No, you cannot help but laugh.
Right. So
Perfect.
the Vauxhall Advance, I made a deal with the Vauxhall Advance, and we'll be putting some ads in the newspaper for the next year with them, and they will be following the story and posting articles for us. So that is how we are moving forward with COVID-19.
And your centennial, which...
And our centennial, yeah.
Other well. So, well, good for you guys. And thank you, Margaret, for coming to our council meeting today. These are all new experiences. Is your council meeting live, or?
No, we haven't gone there yet, just because our council room puts us quite close together. So a few people who now wish to attend can go, but we're not opening it up to everyone just because we would be too close and we'd have to wear the mask. And then that just makes conversation so much harder. So yeah, we're still Zooming our meetings.
All right. Well, thank you for joining ours today, and good luck with all of your work with the chamber, and we wish you the best, and keep us in the know, and take care.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye, Margaret.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Our next Enterprise Fleet Management.
Yeah, and I'm here, Molly, and I see Kathleen. Oh, they were on. I don't see her anymore. Interesting. She might be logging back on again. I'm not sure, but she was there just a second ago.
And sometimes pictures disappear. So
yeah, I'm actually looking at the participant list, and they've disappeared.
Okay.
I just got off the phone with her a couple minutes ago, and they were logging on, and she popped up and disappeared. But I don't. I hope she comes back here soon. But if council would like to proceed, I'll just give you the general overview of the partnership, but leaving the details to Enterprise to speak to. So anyway, in 2017, council agreed to a partnership with Enterprise Fleet Management for the purposes of right-sizing fleet and reducing overall cost of ownership, commencing that program with 7 fleet trucks. Those 7 fleet trucks are assigned units amongst supervisors and managers and such, and they were in the half-ton category of things. When we were looking at 3/4 tons and 1 tons, the way that we were managing versus what was being proposed was not quite adding up to make sense on our books, so we went with the half tons. Municipal services themselves have been operating 5 of those trucks. Agricultural services was operating 1, and the county contract assessor was using the other one over that period of time. We were supposed to be on a 12-month lease period, and when it came to resale, Enterprise had to advise that market values for resale had dipped, and it was recommended that we hang on to those vehicles for 18 months. So earlier this year, we came to the realization of the 18-month period. We replaced the trucks, and at time we were looking to go for resale, COVID hit, and markets plummeted. Global demand for used trucks and stuff plummeted, and some of the resale values plummeted. So again, Enterprise said, well, we better hang on to them for a bit when we can see some of the market rebound, and we'll look at resale values then. From that, we have sold the units, and Kathleen will be able to discuss that with you. I see her name has popped back up on here, but she says her screen is completely black. So Kathleen, if you are here, if you want to turn on your microphone, let's see if we can hear you at least. I'm not seeing anything changing here, so she might be having technical issues. We did a test run yesterday and everything worked fine. Pardon me, council. I'm not sure what challenges they're running into, so we'll try again. But anyway, with this, the units have been sold, so she'll give the update on that. But what we want to talk about is the actual program going forward. And council will need to provide us some direction, or at least I'm seeking some direction anyway, as to what council's preference is in moving forward. Do we continue with the partnership, or with the new units that we have in the fleet, do we just we buy them outright when we get them, so ownership is already there. Do we continue and move back to past practice with internal management of them, and do what's what we believe is best? But with the partnership, it was looking at reducing the cost of ownership overall. So right sizing the fleet, latest and greatest on emissions control, fuel economy, things like that. We talked about reducing the soft cost with downtime and cost through repairs as fleet and equipment age. Replacement of tires, windshields, those sorts of things. We did have to replace 2 windshields due to rock chips and cracks, but other than that, the other 5 units were fine. Of course, there's the benefits of improving safety for the staff operating those vehicles, having the latest and greatest in airbag technology and braking assist and stuff. And then reducing county's carbon footprint by right-sizing fleet and fuel type. And from that, my only question really is the sample size of 18-month period suitable in making a decision to say whether the program was beneficial or ineffective. And has COVID-19 affected the resales enough to skew the desired outcome to not give us a true picture on all of that? So I do have a couple of options for council to consider, but I'd prefer if you had the presentation from Enterprise before we get into that. And right now, I don't know, Kathleen, you're still back on here. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can try turning on your mic, please do so and speak. I'm not having much luck. Does council want to postpone this portion and carry on with other business until we diagnose?
Sure, we could do that, Mark. Kathleen's in the list a couple of times, so now she's back down to 1.
Her microphone is on. Can you talk, Kathleen? I'll just encourage council to continue on with other business, and if all of a sudden you hear Kathleen chime in with her voice, then we'll know things are working.
Okay, we can do that. We were talking prior to the delegations about participation plan with the rec funding, and there we go, you're back. So are there any other thoughts? As I said, for me, this is just the beginning of a process, and it's flexible from the way Lane has presented it, and it can adapt. But it's about getting information, and I think starting with our own communities is important. To me, this whole exercise is, as well as figuring out capital replacement, it's about what's sustainable. Because, I mean, we know right now, we wonder what size of community is sustainable.
Well, that's about the only option. I'm texting here at the same time, but.
Oh, Mark, your mic is still on.
I muted him.
Such power, Todderator. Yeah, the sustainability of all of this, I think, is really important to talk about too. And that's why I think some of our smaller communities might have some pretty interesting thoughts on that. I mean, I had never thought about, for example, in GEM, the only small community with a curling rink. Well, without the big
areas that
support, is it sustainable? I mean, those are questions that our little communities have to answer, and they have to be realistic about it as our world is changing a great deal. So I think I look forward to hearing what our community members have to say about moving forward and how they picture their communities. I mean, and it can't all be with just relying on county taxation, because I don't think we can carry on like that. And which communities are going to survive and move forward? Should we be looking at supporting our biggest communities, whether they're municipalities or whether they're a hamlet? What is going to provide service for our residents 20 years from now? I think this is sort of almost like the small school question of the past. What's going to be there? Any other thoughts? Clarence.
I agree fully, Molly. And the point I was trying to make is that those questions are asked. And every community is different. And when rec dollars were not pooled, if, for instance, just take Rolling Hills as an example, all our rec money goes for operations of facilities in our community. And when they went up, we asked the community if they were prepared to pay a higher mill rate. So it wasn't a county mill rate, it was a division, it was an area mill rate. And the people in that area made a decision on what they would be willing to pay. That is gone today. And that is the problem, that when we say, okay, where is the best place for something like an arena? Well, it should be in the center of the biggest population. And I think our outlying areas are not prepared to give up their community halls or their curling rinks, so that's that way. And I think when they're being assessed, right, that every area is paying their own mill rate for whatever they have, the responsibility lies with that area. And that's what I'm afraid that we kind of lost. And that's really the big point I'm trying to make. So if Jim feels that for Div 9, whatever the rec mill rate was, has to go up to pay for the curling club in the hall, or however you want to do it, that's their decision. It's not ours as a county. And that's where I think we have to be very, very careful in how we structure that people don't lose that ability and that ownership and the responsibility of ownership for their facilities.
Yeah, and the change was interesting because I mean, our areas that had all the oil and gas wells had a lot of, I know it was shared, but it was an interesting situation already, and we said no, we should make that fair, and so that takes away those community boundaries, I think, which was a decision we made. So yeah, I just look forward to what people have to say, what the locals think. Anne-Marie and Hubie?
Yeah, it will be an interesting discussion because I appreciate what Clarence is saying, but things have changed, Clarence. Like kids can go to different schools throughout our whole region. Kids have sports interests and they go all over the county if they want to play soccer or if they want to play hockey or ringette. It's not really tied to their own community anymore like it was maybe 30 years ago. So we have to find that balance, and the discussion with the people will be good.
Yes. Hubie?
In the past, it was much easier for these communities to raise funds with all these fundraising activities. And I tip my hat to all the volunteers, but it's going to get difficult in the future to do that because of COVID and what we're going through right now. So it could be tough
Wayne?
Well, we have a problem. Like this should be part of the discussion. Like you take Bazzano, Rosemary, Duchess, and the city. We're making ICFs with them so that we will be funding part of their recreation. But you take the other communities like Tilly, Scandia, Rolling Hills, and Gem, they don't have ICFs, so they're relying completely on the county for their whatever funding they get. You know, and maybe going back to Clarence's point, maybe we should have consulted on when we made this recreation, see if they really wanted it or where they wanted to go with it. These are all things that have to be discussed, and this could be an interesting process we're going through. A lot of information that we're going to have to mill through.
And when we made the decision, there were residents who said that's a good decision, because we're using facilities all over the place, just as Anne Marie pointed out. So it's a balance. It's a damned if you do and don't sort of thing. But I just feel that any information that we can get through this process that will maybe change as it goes, and I'd like Lane to talk a little bit about that as well, will be very helpful for us, or I hope so. Wayne, do you have something else before I switch back to Lane?
Yeah, I was just wondering where the funding for the ICF is coming from. Is that, like, for the recreation, is that going to come out of this rec fund? Or is that going to be a set aside for a separate deal and the funding for that comes from general revenue? Or have we decided how that is going to be processed?
I'll throw it back to you, Lane.
It's my understanding that the funding that you're looking at making available to the likes of the city of Brooks is going to be coming from that $500,000 that has been applied to all assessments throughout the county. And I'm making the assumption that that would be the case for any increase in funding that might be made available to Rosemary and Duchess for those ICF arrangements as well. I could stand corrected, but that's my understanding.
So, Lane, any other thoughts on moving forward, and are you feeling comfortable with, I mean, I don't know, we sort of wandered all over the place. Perhaps was there specific questions you wanted us to answer?
Not necessarily. I guess I wanted to make it clear that what we're talking about doing is meeting with the community groups to gather input on how the funds that the county is collecting is going to be distributed in the future. We're not talking about taking over the role of volunteers when it comes to fundraising throughout the community. We definitely don't want that to be considered in any way, shape, or form. So I think that we're going to send that message very clearly, that it is limited to strictly providing some rules around how the county is going to distribute funding in the future. I also get the message quite clearly from council that we want to limit it to the groups that are operating within the county, and we wouldn't be drawing in or reaching out to the urban communities at this point. So really the potential is there for there to be two classes of recreation facilities that we're dealing with. One would be recreation facilities in the urban centers. The other would be the truly rural recreation facilities, of which this process would involve directly. Just so that, right, to make sure that that's my understanding, and that's the basis that we would go forward with.
I think so. Council, any objections to that? Wayne, you had your hand up.
Another question, if I'm on one of those committees, I'm going to ask, well, since we're funding all these ICFs out of this fund, how much money is left for the rest of the communities? They're going to ask it.
Well, I think there's a lot of information for them to understand what we're doing, what we're dealing with, and the future is a big question mark. So sometimes these, I mean, what we need to me, we need to get some very basic responses from our communities, understanding where they see their community's needs going forward and how that funding. And rural people are aware of the oil and gas issues because they all live in terror. Service rental is going to quit being paid, and those things that are direct hits, or that their taxes are going to go up because of the oil and gas inability to pay. So I think some basic discussions that will be excellent, and Lane can guide his way through them, I think, quite well. And come back to us at any time, Lane, if you need other confused ideas. Your timeline, I think, is worth a try. It's always hard to get rural people involved, the way the weather works and stuff. But anybody have any comments on the proposed timelines? As good as it gets, basically. Yeah. I like the idea, if possible, for people to move to different facilities around, if there could be different meetings, but if it's about traveling great distances, maybe not. And some of the facilities may not work for the COVID-19 for spacing, depending on how many people get involved. So I'm comfortable leaving those sorts of decisions up to Lane or the rest of you. So those to me are administrative details of getting this feedback. So Lane, enough? Oh, Kevin.
Madam Reeve, I'm just going to add a comment. I had sent a snippet to council there a couple of weeks back, but anyway, I just wanted to say that Division 1, 2, and 6 are already using more than the $500,000 for their recreation rate now, based on identified. 5, 7, 8, and 10, I believe, will be in the same boat once those ICF agreements are done. I believe that those rates will probably be utilizing the $500,000 up. So that leaves us with 3, 4, and 9. That's probably going to be paying more than what's being returned to those particular divisions because they don't have too many rec facilities that it funds. So I do think the exercise is going to be very important, and the $500,000 that's been put away has put the county in a decent position to be able to deal with all of this without having to go back to the taxpayer, I think. So we're in a lot better position today with these 4 years with this program than we were 4 years ago. So I do give you credit for putting it in place and finding out how to deal with it. The partnerships, I think, is going to be key moving forward on a long-term basis, just like as everybody's identified.
Oh, you're on mute, Molly.
Thanks. Okay to move on then, Lane?
Certainly.
Okay.
It looks like Kathleen might be on.
Mark, are you?
Kathleen is on via phone, but we're still having technical difficulties with the computer. I don't understand all this myself. Maybe it's Enterprise's firewall or something that's restricting something for passing or whatever. She was at home yesterday when we tried it and it worked fine, but had some delay in her video. But she could make herself available from 1 till 2. Or we can try to do this over the phone. How would council like to proceed? Because that would mean you'd have to follow along with the presentation that's part of your package.
Well, I mean, I think we're going to be here from 1 till 2, probably. We're not meeting. So if it's better to wait and try and make it work better, I think we can wait.
Kathleen, you can hear us on your phone?
Yes, I can.
How would you like to proceed? Would you like to try to get the computer working, although I know you're kind of busy over lunchtime too, or do you just want to do it over the phone here now?
I have a corporate meeting at 12 that unfortunately I can't miss. So if we could do from 1 to 2 and you just let me know, I could go back to my house. I'm also going to try just restarting my computer, hopefully, and maybe that fixes it, just because it would make it easier. And then obviously it is part of the recording if I was to screen share, which would be beneficial for everyone, obviously, if that is okay.
I think it's fine. Head nodding. 1 o'clock for Kathleen. Is 1 o'clock good, Kathleen? Does your meeting go too long to help for 1 o'clock?
It should be okay. I'll just tell them I need to leave a smidge early, so just to make sure that we have everything set up.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. And so
thank you.
We'll leave that till then. Thanks, Mark and Kathleen. And we'll go to checks for payment. Payment register, item 9.5. Any questions or a motion? Tracy.
I just had a couple questions. One was more just curious. It was greater mileage for Karen Lemieux. So does she get paid mileage to travel to the greater yard site? And I just have to find my other question. It had to do with a tax refund, but it was, well, now I can't find it. Oh, it says ASMT CHNG, so under, the first one, there was a few in there. The first one I come across was under Douglas Cattle Company. But sorry.
I'm so glad you noticed. I told John, oh great, this is going to be right on our council meeting screen. It's an assessment change, a reduction.
So it's a change. Oh, okay. I figured it was something to do with taxes, but
yes,
I didn't understand what that said. Oh, assessment change. Gotcha.
In this particular case, just so you know, when John bought some land a year ago, there was an old house on it, and that's the change in assessment. This old house that hasn't been in it for a few years. So the taxes were paid, and then you get them back when they make the adjustment. So that's our story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, there was a few, but I just didn't understand what that meant. Thank you.
Mark.
Yes, Karen Lemieux is being paid for travel between her place of residence, and she's filling in for a vacancy right now in the Patricia grading area. So that's how that's being worked out.
Other changes? Or questions? Tracy?
I'll move acceptance.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Are there any requests for function of council? Kelly, you're organized for yours later on, right? You're good. No requests. Okay. Municipal services business was Cole and Mark.
Well, what do we got for news here? Roads were firming up until we got what? I heard 10 inches of rain in Rosemary was being spoke of before the meeting and 4 inches here. Definitely made roads soft, made some roads muddy. So things dry out and we can get things graded up to see how much gravel's there. But graveling of roads will progress just as regularly planned, and anything that is now resulting in a lack of gravel due to it being pushed down into the roadbed will be addressed and identified by the gravel foreman. Other than that, grader operators had been busy and we're in full swing with the dust abatement program that went quite smoothly with 1 or 2 days of rain delay. Truck drivers, they've been making progress on resurfacing roads. They resurfaced some dust abatement locations because we like to keep some good aggregate mixed in with that. If there's a lot of fines, the dust abatement treated area will turn real greasy or snotty, as some people call it. The larger aggregate helps it bind and stick together better and hold together better, so it doesn't get that slippery, slimy surface on the top. Resurfacing program, greater operation area 4 is about 70% complete, which is Sandy Rainier, both cities, and 93% complete around Brooks. The rest of the area is just getting started, but they have accomplished approximately 87.5 kilometers of road resurfacing of the 376 planned, so pretty well a quarter of the way complete. And since preparation of the report, they've obviously made more progress. Maintenance operators continue working on the variety of work orders that get thrown their way, generally around vegetation management, sign replacements, upgrading, things like that. So that's been good. Dust abatement is complete. As I said, they got kicked off June 15th, and I believe it was July 2nd or 3rd that they got wrapped up. Tenders for multiple small drainage, culvert replacements, operational projects have all been advertised. Those awards are being provided as things come in. And Terry and team are about to kick off the 2020 shoulder pulls in Rolling Hills. And with that, they expect to be kicked off mid-July. Concurrent work to that, 100% of the 20, that should have been 2019, sorry, but 2019 culvert replacements from the shoulder pull program in Tilly were awarded, and work is in progress in that area. Some of the capital equipment is summarized, have been tendered out and being replaced at this time. We're still waiting for some receipt of some of that equipment. Highway 876 partnership, probably the biggest project we got going on in the region this year. That's progressing excellently. I'm not 100% sure if any pavement has hit the ground yet, first lift of asphalt, but I know that they got a lot of gravel base down on that, and they had a lot of tack oil covering that, keeping that surface water repellent anyway in effort for paving. So some of that, progress will be quick. It is a long project, but it is progressing nicely nonetheless. 15th Avenue, 2nd Street West, Highway 873 with the traffic control lights and turning radius improvements there at the north intersection leading into the city. That's all going here on the 23rd of July for tender awards. So look forward to that one getting kicked off in August period. Lake Knoll Resort landscape improvements. This is the clean out of the ditches, the roadside drainage, some swales in behind some residences. That is in progress right now, and progress is taking place, so it looks good. Crack sealing is also done. Line painting is complete. I think most everything looks pretty good. I know we've had some discussion internally here about crack sealing and line painting and stuff and what that all looks like. And we've looked at it and we think it's suitable for what we need, but we'll know in a year after winter and see what lines actually exist at the end and what we need to change moving forward if we need to talk to council again. So, long-term aggregate supply request for proposals being worked on, hopefully going to be tendered in early July here. I don't know if Jeff's still on track with that. But this is looking at our existing resources and then, of course, new resource exploration. So looking forward to that because we haven't done any of that in my period here. And really, municipal enforcement, They keep up with our partners and whatnot. You can see that they issued 3 warnings and 9 tickets based on June's traffic priorities. July's priorities are impaired driving, along with additional focus on cycling, construction zones, and off-highway vehicles. And I think everything's good. Working on job description updating, processes, procedures, all that fun paperwork kind of stuff, making sure we're efficient and doing what we need to be doing the way we should be doing it. And I guess really no great news with the permit activity report, because due to COVID and restrictions and stuff, things continue to be very low on the permit side of things for trucks and movements. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions, folks? Hubie.
Mark, do you guys get a lot of requests on spot graveling in bad spots lately?
No. There's very few of those concerns come through the office, actually. The primary concerns or complaints generally washboard, dust, rough spots in the road.
Tracy, Anne-Marie.
Mark, my question kind of will tie in a little bit with our fleet management, but I didn't have a chance to look, but what is our policy currently on the lifespan of our fleet trucks? Like, because I know we have capital replacement. What is it for fleet trucks?
Well, where we're trying to move to is the overall cost of ownership. So trying to monitor the repair costs, and when those things start to exceed what the value of vehicle is and stuff, we have to make those decisions, right? Because if the value is only worth $2,500 and you're going to throw a $5,000 or $6,000 engine in, and it just doesn't make sense when you're down to that point, right? Typical practice within municipal services NOA, a fleet truck generally looking at about 10-year life expectancy. Of course, pending who's driving that and what its use and purpose is in fleet. If it's one of those ones that staff use regular basis and whatnot, it sees more mileage than some of us in supervisory capacity. So not trying to base anything by age, but make decisions based on cost of what units are. So if we ended up with what many of us would coin a lemon, when you buy a new vehicle, and all it does is have repairs and malfunctions and everything, it might be more suitable to get rid of that lemon before something that's 10 years old. Just because if you need fleet availability and it's always in the shop, it's not available, right? So 10 years for a lot of our stuff. I'm not 100% sure what agricultural services do or any other departments, but that's what we kind of strive for. Some of the 3/4 tons and stuff are earlier than that because they're on the road every day and they're chalking up those miles, and we need reliable units. So it might be 5 to 7 years on some of those.
Anne-Marie, did you have a question?
No question. Just wanted to say to Mark that after a heavy rainfall, it's so nice to see how the drainage works in the hamlet and probably all hamlets. It's an excellent job. Nice.
Well, thank you. That's credit to council as well for supporting those initiatives back in, I want to say that was 2009, 2010 periods where we invested multi-millions of dollars in each of the hamlets to improve those systems. I think Patricia's alone was about $500,000 worth of investment. I guess since you bring us to that subject, and not to take too much more time, but the question arose about what we're doing with sanitary sewer systems and non-flushables. To reiterate, we were doing social media posts. The City of Brooks had social media posts. City of Brooks had stuff in the newspaper, I believe it was as well. And just those continued discussions with things. It is a challenge because a lot of these companies advertise these items as being flushable, in particular the wipes for small children and stuff like that. And that's where they go. And as Cole spoke, people using more Lysol wipes and stuff to kill bacteria, viruses, well, where's the easiest place to dispose of it? Well, flush it, right? It's very costly venture. It plugs up the pumps at lift stations. and those things can ultimately result in sewer backups in people's homes, which become insurance claims, and that drives all of our premiums up. And it's not necessarily a negligent act upon the municipality when all those items end up in those pumps either. So that comes down to personal insurance coverage. Other than that, we haven't done any particular door-to-door knocking or anything like that. That's a very time-consuming activity. Most municipalities go around these regularly to keep that education going with people, right? The sump pump thing is the number one leading issue that we believe we have out there. People discharging the foundation weeping tile to the sewer system. In the Rolling Hills situation, they have what you call a closed sewer system. Everybody has a septic tank, so they pump the sewer into their septic tank. Then they have a second pump that takes that septic and pumps it into a HDPE pipe. So there are no manholes along the main service lines in Rolling Hills until you get to just outside of the lift station. And when they do that, with that massive infiltration of stormwater and stuff from their sump pumps, they're all competing to getting into the system. And with that, people go, oh, I got to have a 5 horsepower pump, and this guy's only running a 1.5 horsepower pump, and they're competing for who gets that capacity of the system, which causes problems. We heard again that some people had burnt out pumps and stuff. Well, they're all overcharging the system. So that education, and I made the decision that it needs to be in all hamlets. All hamlet residents, homeowners need to make that effort to redirect their foundation drains and wherever else their sump pumps are collecting water from. Some people have their roof leaders and stuff tied into those sump pumps. We need that diverted out on your lawn. That's free watering of your lawn when it rains. And same thing with your sump pump. Get it a couple meters away from your house foundation. Keep it a couple meters back away from your property line so that your lawn can benefit from it first, and you're not going to overcharge the storm sewer system, and you're also, most importantly, not going to overcharge the septic, the sanitary sewer system. And the sanitary is really important because you got lift stations and you have lagoons, and if the capacity of the lagoon is exceeded because of stormwater that does not need to be treated the same way as your sewage, then we're going to go down some very costly adventure roads here. To make those changes, and that's not something that environment considers in part of their approval of sanitary sewer lagoon upgrades and stuff. Sanitary lagoons are for sanitary sewer, not stormwater.
Ellen?
Yes, Mark. Do our police officers carry devices that can determine if a motorist is under the influence of either alcohol or drugs?
They do not have the right to test for any of that. If they encounter a motorist due to a traffic stop, say it's they appear to be distracted driving, say they appear to be under the influence, whatever they find at that traffic stop, they have, if it's getting into that realm, they have to detain the individual, but they have to call the RCMP for backup to come out and do the testing.
Thank you, Mark.
You bet.
Mark, just before we go, just a shout out to Volker, who on July 1st, a holiday, actually responded very quickly to, again, it's all the rain we've had. There's an old bridge on the way down to the ferry on the 862 that should really have been replaced with a culvert, but they did put a bridge further down. This is years ago. And they just sort of built the road over this old wooden structure, which as it falls apart, the road does wild things. And so one of these days they're going to have to bite the bullet and probably put in a culvert because there's springs there as well. It's incredible, the water that runs off the hills into the flats. Like, it just blows me away. But there was a huge hole at the edge of the road. One of our kids phoned me and said, you got to do something about this. They think, of course, that the county is the world. And so I phoned Volker, and they came out. They were out within an hour, I think. And I mean, the repair they did is not lasting, but they probably think it is. But whatever the case, they responded to keep the motoring public safe. So that was excellent and certainly different than when I started years ago dealing with Volkers. So it was nice. And I just thought if I could pass it on to you and you could pass it on to the local guys, that it was appreciated.
I will do that. That's to share a similar experience. I noticed one of the red and white called crossbuck signs at a railway crossing out in Bazzano was on a significant lean, and that was not long after the train and motor vehicle collision just east of Brooks here took place. I phoned the CP rail number. They have markers on those crossbuck signs with unique identifiers for the crossing. I phoned that. The lady took my call, logged my information, my contact information if they need to follow up. And surprisingly, I saw the CP rail truck sitting in Bazzano. So I rolled up beside the guys and I said, you're probably going to receive a work order or something, I imagine, through the complaint line for this crossing. And the guy's like, yeah, I already have it on my laptop. We're actually going to head there as soon as we get the microwave. They were in town picking up the microwave to put it in the truck so they could cook hot meal while they're on the road. Thought that was quite unique. So no, most all of them, and I believe Volker has this too, that when you call those call them complaint lines or customer service request lines, if you want to be political these days, those matters automatically get logged into a work order and sent to either a dispatcher or sent direct to somebody in the field that's supposed to tend to it. And that truly is what we're also striving to have in place. We don't get too many of those ourselves, but their response times are actually very, very good compared to what they used to be, Molly. So
yeah.
I will share that.
Yes, and maybe you could ask them if they're ever going to do a permanent fix on that road before the whole road disappears someday. Anyhow, we should dismiss or recess, I should say, for lunch, and we'll come back for 1 o'clock with Mark and Kathleen, hopefully. All right. Does that work for staff? Okay. Thanks, everybody.